But my first favorite is Jesus Christ, Messiah. He was a millennial. Yep. A lot of people think when they hear Jesus, oh, he's 50, 60 years old. He was God in the flesh and old man who died. Jesus was young. He started his ministry when he was 30 years old. Yep. At the heart of millennialization, if that's even a word.
Well, we can make it a word.
Exactly.
Thanks to Google, we just made it a word.
At Table Talk with Jen, that's a word. Yeah, okay. But explain him, because he was the millennials of millennials.
Yeah, he was. It's interesting because he even existed in the turn of the century, kind of like how we exist in the turn of the century as millennials. And he represented that demographic of the 18 to 35.
Yeah.
And so he was the millennial of his generation, him and the apostles. Very young men. Mm-hmm. I know that the supreme ruler says in the scripture that he calls them when they're young. Yes. There's something powerful about being able to take all that strength and all that focus from that generation and utilize it for the purpose of the creator. Like,
awesome. Yeah.
So that gives me hope. You know what I mean? Like,
me too.
I'm very excited about that because when I read him, like, wow, he was pretty intense.
He was.
I mean, the most intense being in person has ever walked this planet. Like,
yes, he was. Now, we talked about how Messiah was killed by the religious leaders in the institution of his day.
Yeah.
And there were the Pharisees. That were their names. Isn't that interesting, though? Because a lot of times we know he died on the cross for the sins of the world, but who specifically organized his death? It was the religious leaders. Yep. Isn't that odd? I've always found that ironic. I'm like, of all people in humanity, why not the prostitutes, the dope dealers, the temple prostitutes, whoever, the witchcraft worker? No, it was the church of their day, the institutional industry of the day who knew the Torah from front to back and so forth. They murdered him. They murdered God, the very God that they claimed to be living for and testifying of. Explain why.
Hey, some things has never changed. I'll tell you that right now. Like,
okay,
you talk about murder victim church. Absolutely. Let me tell you, Messiah was killed by the institutions of his day, and there's a reason why. Because the institution at that time was the temple that was designed. That design was given by David to Solomon. That was rebuilt after the exile, if you will.
Right.
But that institution after the exile from Babylon, when they came out, it came with certain features that was not inherent in the temple that was before, which was the temple tax. It became a money-making business. You saw what happened when the Messiah came in there. He started running out all the thieves and the sellers.
The money changers.
Yeah, the money changers. He got it right. You want to find out the problem with humanity, always trace it back to the money changers. The guys where the money's changing. It's always the money that's the problem, the corporation.
Wow.
So the problem with the temple in the first century was it was a business. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But because their business interests and their financial security was tethered to it, they could have some young man going around doing miracles, proving and exposing the illegitimacy of what they were doing.
Wow.
It's all about money at the end of the day, just like it's all about money today. Like,
that is true.
Stop
so they were pretty threatened by the fact that Messiah was not focused on institution. He was focused on truly changing lives, and he exposed that the institution basically we're going out of business.
Pretty much.
I mean, he said in the Gospels, he goes, destroy this temple in 3 days, and what will happen?
I will rebuild it.
And when they heard that, they automatically assumed that he was going to shut down their building, and that's when they plotted to put him to death.
Yeah, you saw it. When they took him in, remember when they captured him, there was like, they brought accusers saying, I heard this man say he's going to tear down the temple.
Wow.
Like, once you talk about our business, now you're worthy of death. Everything else, you called us all sorts of stuff. You called us whitewashed sepulchres. You called us sons of the devil. But once you talk about my money, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
In the generic form of the cartel, the religious cartel, man, they're gangsters, man. Like, let me tell you, the religious spirit is the most violent spirit. Like you said, it wasn't the drug dealers that killed the Messiah. He was vibing with these people because they were closer to reality. At least they admitted they were evil. Like,
that's right.
So they were closer to the truth than those religious, pious leaders who their only objective was to get the money. Like, and you see that as a constant threat in Messiah's indictment against them.
Yeah. I think the biggest indictment was when he said that we are the temple of God. And we've talked about this before, and how when the temple was initially constructed during the time of Solomon, how much effort and work it took for God's presence to even abide in that one building. Like, I'm talking about thousands and thousands of pounds, sacrifices and consecration before his Shekinah glory rested on one building.
Yeah.
And we have like millions of buildings today that we're saying, oh, God's presence is here, it's there, and so forth. It's not the case. Christ said it. We are the temple of God. What happened in the temple during the time of Solomon now happens in the life of the believer, where the presence of God, his spirit, now abides in our temple. And when he said that we are the temple, that was automatically a real word of hostility against this building.